All right, Friday night, it's about time we present to you the power seat. And sitting on the power seat tonight is the founder and CEO of Rootz. Matsimela Thabo Moloto is a mining engineer and the chairman of Rootz 31 Pty Trading as Rootz Investments, an umbrella company with interests across the local, continental, and global mining sectors through ownership, shareholding, and consulting. He holds a Master's of Science in Mining Engineering from the University of the Witwatersrand, a junior bachelor's degree in mining engineering, a government certificate of competency for mine managers, a project management professional qualification from the Project Management Institute of America, and has completed an executive development program with Wits Business School. Moloto has more than 21 years of experience in the mining sector, spanning coal, diamonds, and metalliferous mines, shaft sinking, new mine development, and digital mining solutions. He began his career as a learner official at De Beers Diamond Mines at Venetia and later joined Greenacre LTA Underground Mining Division, where he progressed from junior mining engineer to site manager, gaining experience in coal, manganese, gold, platinum, and shaft sinking operations. In 2010, he joined Shaft Sinkers, advancing through site management, contract manager, operations director, and managing director of Shaft Sinkers Mining. Good evening and welcome. How are you doing, Thabo?
Hey, Tich. Good evening to yourself and the viewers at home. I'm well.
It's good to have you. You're a very, very important man because Africa is well endowed in all kinds of mining materials, but we are considered one of the underdeveloped mining communities, and we don't make much from the resource that we export. Is that not right?
Of course, Tish, that's precise, that's correct. We have abundance of different minerals. We are endowed with minerals, God-given minerals that are here in Africa. But of course, the story is that of a sad state of affairs in a sense that we remain an extractive industry and not doing much of value add. It is a story of resource scarce that haunts a number of African countries, South Africa being one, other countries such as Zambia, the DRC, Zimbabwe. The story of African resource scarce continues to haunt us. And what do I mean by that, Tish? I characterize the resource scarce to the fact that endowed as we are, we don't do adequate value add or value addition of our minerals. And as a result, we remain with a comparative advantage of having these minerals in our doorstep, but not having competitive advantage in the global market.
Very true. So you're right that South Africa holds the richest chrome endowment on earth, yet we cannot keep our own furnaces lit. What went wrong in the last 20 years? Is this by design?
Tish, it's multiplicity of issues, but I'll point you to 2 or 3 variables. The story of the last 20 years, particularly talking about ferrochrome industry in South Africa, is that South Africa used to be a leader globally in as far as the secondary level of beneficiation of chrome is concerned, which is ferrochrome. We used to be a leader globally. We used to be number 1. And around 2012, China started overtaking us. And this points to a very dire and sad story that we host over 75% of the known chrome resources in the entire globe. However, getting to the downstream side, we actually contribute only about 23% of the ferrochrome global production. Said indeed in that further downstream, we only contribute less than 1% of stainless steel production. Is it by design? I think, once again, it speaks to the resource curse. What is the resource curse in this context is that there seems to be an irresponsible way of handling our resources, irresponsible way of handling our affairs. Is it by design? I don't think so. I think there's issues that we need to attend to. There's issues of cost of production for us to remain competitive in the global fora, but also there's issues of imbalanced trade with those that we call our friends. And these are the issues that really needs to be revisited. That's precisely why we are where we are today. Skewed balanced trade relations and also the issues of cost of production that render us uncompetitive in the global fora.
What is the remedy? Is it at policy level? One of the things you're talking about is the imbalance, and is that because in general miners in Africa lack the right kind of information? What is it really?
Well, Tish, I think there's a number of issues here, and there's different schools of thoughts in as far as what the issues are. One scholar from Harvard argues that beneficiation is not a panacea to resolve our economic issues. And he punts that narrative over and over again without providing solutions, and he goes unchallenged. We don't address the real issues. The real issue here is that we need to convert the comparative advantage of having the inputs close by to competitive advantage. And that competitive advantage means that we have to have a clear influence in the cost of production basket, in a sense that there are few variables that really drives beneficiation or industrialization. Electricity is one. The cost of electricity, the cost of material, raw material, the cost of reductants, labor as well. If we begin to address the issues that drive the total cost of production basket, I think we will be competitive. It's not a policy issue. We can have as many policies as we can. There has been many policies in South Africa dating back from the RDP, the Reconstruction Development Program, and many other policies, white papers, green papers, plethora of policies. The issue is not with policy. The issue is how do we become competitive in the global space.
All right. You spoke about beneficiation, you spoke about the cost of energy, electricity. Do you think that, all the different stakeholders need to sit at a round table and then, coherently discuss a solution, which talks about the energy, the cost of the energy, the information required in order for miners to then particularly push towards beneficiation?
Tish, I don't think we need forums and conferences and debates and all of that. I don't think so. I think the issues are clear, facts and figures.
Okay.
Since 2008 until now, the electricity prices for the high-intensive users, high-intensive energy users, has increased by more than 900%. Okay? It's a fact. It's a fact. You don't need a conference to discuss that. Here's a reality we're faced with to say, how do we deal with this important variable as a cost of production variable in the basket? How do we deal with this? And the solutions are there. Some of them you've already started seeing. I mean, the new price regime for the smelters in South Africa that has been introduced by the Minister of Electricity, Hosien Tsoramokgopa. These are some of the firm decisions that we ought to take as a country, as a continent, to ensure that the smelters or the beneficiation players remain competitive. I keep on panting on this competitive, because we operate in a global space where cost and revenue is everything.
Yeah, that's quite incredible. So it's good to note that, people are beginning to look at pricing policy, as you're saying that even at ministry level they're doing something about it. How does that translate to the rest of Southern Africa, as an example? If a guy wants to buy chrome in South Africa and then the pricing regime is not favorable, they'll go to Zimbabwe, as an example. How do we deal with that?
Absolutely, Tish. If we don't address these fundamental issues that stifles industrialization, beneficiation, beneficiation will happen, whether by us or by someone else. Beneficiation will happen. So investors, they look at such things like where can I get maximum margins for my investment? And if the cost of electricity erodes those margins, they will definitely go somewhere else. So we ought to look at these issues of cost from a regional integration point of view, in that we cannot be an enclave as South Africa. We cannot be an isolated bubble somewhere and think that we can beneficiate everything here in the country. Some of the beneficiation stages can take place in different countries. It doesn't have to be in South Africa, by hook or crook. It can be in Zimbabwe for steel. It can be in Zimbabwe for lithium. It can be in Zambia for copper. It can be in the DRC for cobalt. However, further downstream, through the regional economic linkages, we must then find expression as a continent or as SADC, looking at it as one entity, not as an enclave South Africa in this current state.
Wow, interesting. So, and for these very reasons, you look at, as an example, the shutting down of different smelters. At one time, I think South Africa had 66 ferrochrome smelters, and only 11 are running today. What were the main problems the rest faced?
I go back to some of the figures that I've alluded to when we started this conversation, Tish, that we used to be a global leader in ferrochrome or ferroalloys beneficiation. And to date, we contribute just over 20%, if not less. And the issues are there. China it's got almost 80% of the ferroalloys capacity when it relies on our raw ore supplies for close to 90%. So basically, we are shipping rocks to Asia. We are shipping rocks to the East. And they are building their own capacities on the other side. And I dare say the relationships are skewed from a trade balance point of view. And these are issues, fundamental issues. After dealing with cost, at a domestic level, by the regulator, by ESCOM, by everyone, we need to now attend to issues of trade balance with those that we call our friends. That is the real issue.
How do we deal with the trade relationships, therefore, Thabo? Is it, I spoke about policy and you said, no, it's not really anything to do with policy. How do we bring China to the table for them to understand that for these things to really work for both entities, there needs to be fair play?
Tish, I argue that we don't have poverty or policy issue. In that between South Africa and China, there are existing, bilateral treaties or bilateral agreements. China had agreed to beneficiate from source. It's a fact. It's there in the bilateral agreements. They have agreed to beneficiate from source. Recently, I think around May, we also had another agreement on top of other agreements, wherein we signed a framework for economic partnership for shared prosperity. Another document, okay? Now, we are not short of documents or policies and all of that. We need to go back to the drawing board to say, hey, you've agreed to beneficiate from source, but the opposite, the inverse happened because you started buying the source. Because you start seeing the ownership patterns of all these minerals, all these important minerals being owned somewhere, either by Asia Capital or the banks or Asia owners and all of that, not beneficiating from the source, but buying the source. So we need to revisit those relationships and say, our friends, if you're really our friends, this relationship is unsustainable. We have future generations that are relying on these very critical minerals to thrive in the future. And therefore, we ought to attend to these issues, fix the skewed trade balances, and address the fundamental issues of cost. Then we have the solutions.
Yeah, man. It's getting hotter. And I'll ask for you to take just a quick drink of water, Matsimela, because I see you're really getting worked up right here. So am I.
There we
and
are.
we'll be right back in just a moment. Very interesting conversation on mining and solutions for the Southern African region. Welcome back to the show on the Power Seat today. Very interesting topic. If this is not sorted, Africa mining and mining organizations will remain in the doldrums when it comes to the mining industry. So let me welcome once again Matsimela. He is one of the most celebrated and experienced miners on the Southern African part of Africa. And welcome back, Thabo.
Thank you, Tish. Thank you.
So you are very familiar with the process flow of mining. Where should we touch and tweak immediately to start to make the changes? And who truly are our friends? Is it Europe? Is it China? Who are the true fair weather friends in mining for Africa?
Tish, the question of who's our real friends?
We don't have. Don't have.
Our real friends are those who are concerned about the livelihoods of Africans. Our real friends are those that are concerned about the future generations. Our real friends are those that really care about an African child that is to be born 30 years from now. And if we don't have friends who think like that, I suppose and I postulate that we don't have friends. The question as to what do we do now? This country has designated a number of industrial development zones and special economic zones. Special economic zones, in their very nature, these are industrial hubs, and majority of them are mineral-led industrial hubs. We have a number of them. My home province of Limpopo has 2 of these critical special economic zones that are relying on minerals to propel economic development of the province and the country, and by large of the SADC region. There are incentives that are extended to investors if you invest in these special economic zones. for beneficiation. There are tax breaks. There are a number of fiscal incentives that we need to begin to take advantage of. Beneficiation can happen in Africa. Beneficiation can be propelled by the special economic zones that exist in the country and beyond. And we ought to have that targeted focus and put our energy on the real things, not on anecdotes, policy anecdotes and conferences.
Okay. So who leads this change? We spoke about meetings. You said, no, that doesn't work. We've had too many coffee meetings and cake. That's all people do. They talk about nothing. And so are you therefore saying the economic zones or industrial hubs now need to entertain serious investors who understand where the mining sector within Africa is going?
Absolutely, Tish. This is not a linear approach where you have one player dictating the terms. You still need the regulators, which is the state and the center of decision making, of course, on issues of cost, issues of energy and other things as well. But you need private investment as well, to be infused in this special economic zones. And this private capital needs to be monitored. We cannot continue to have capital that keeps making promises. We cannot continue to have investors who make promises, make commitments, and they hoard development in these special economic zones. We need to monitor progress. We need to ask the right questions as to how far are you since you've made a commitment of so much billions to be invested in these special economic zones. And I think that conversation, once again, we cannot be an enclave. It must take place at a regional level. At a regional level, because policies or agreements such as the Africa Continental Trade free trade area, what they're doing is that they present an opportunity that we never had as a country. Here is a 300 million population market all of a sudden in SADC presented by Africa. And these are things that we need to be focusing on to say domestic consumption is one driver of beneficiation. And here is the domestic consumption presented by the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And this is where we should be focusing.
Wow. So ownership is very important, and one of the things you continue to talk about is when the money comes, it needs to go where it's meant to go. So indigenization is really critical when it comes to mining development within the Southern African region.
Absolutely, Tish. The sad reality, and it's a story of resource curse once again in Africa, is that the address of capital often dictates the address of beneficiation. So those who put the money will ultimately take whatever that they produce from here, go beneficiate it somewhere else. And in so doing, the then subsequent multipliers happen somewhere else, but not in Africa. So the issue of ownership or co-ownership is very important in that if we begin to use Africa capital, the likes of GDSA, the likes of Upstream Bank and all of that, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention this entities, my apologies. But I'm saying we need to aggregate Africa capital so that the address of capital begins to dictate the address of capital in Africa.
Have you approached some of these banks yourself? Because, whenever you approach problems to do with mining, people tell you that mining is a very expensive business and Africa naturally does not have the capital. Is that true?
It is absolutely not true. capital can never be a singular approach. There are various models, financial instruments, syndications, aggregations with African capital and international capital that can begin to bring about solutions to the African problem. We need to be innovative. We need innovative financial instruments from Africa, aggregating or syndicating with other international funding institutions. We are sitting with billions and billions of rands and dollars here in South Africa through the pension funds, through the IDC, through the DBSA and all of that. We need to get innovative financial instruments where we can begin to aggregate regionally and internationally to find solutions.
All right. You know, it's just that we don't have enough time. Thank you so much, Matsimela, for having joined us tonight. What really I find interesting is that we have individuals such as yourself who know exactly where the problems are, but not enough is being done. If people want to communicate with you, perhaps really start a movement that will unlock value from Africa, how can they get in touch with you?
As long as it's not a formation of a political party, they can.
You look very presidential, my brother. You must start a party looking very presidential.
No ways. No. They can get in touch with us, at info@rootzinvest.co.za, and I think we have a very strong advisory team, techno-economic advisory team. And we're an investment firm. We can begin to look at solutions with those that are in need.
Yeah, very interesting conversation. I'd like to book another interview with you in the next couple of months to just take a look at where things are going. Thank you so much for having joined us, and have a great weekend, my brother.
Thank you very much, Tich, and your viewers at home and your listeners. I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Channel Africa.
The biggest